deepen into your own being, your own body, really feeling that groundedness, that centeredness that is here for you, with you now. And if it's comfortable, dropping some roots down into the earth, moving all the way to the core, feeling that earth energy, that support, the power, the love of the earth. And from this place, just take a scan of your body. Are there places that need a little bit more relaxation this morning? And just acknowledge that. And as you wish to do so, as it feels comfortable for you, taking a breath in, up through the soles of your feet, allowing that breath to just gently rise through your body. And exhale when you're ready. When you are ready to just connect deeply with yourself, again, dropping deep, allowing, again, that connection to the earth. And breathing in up through the soles of the feet, allowing that breath to rise gently up through the body. Expand your belly with your breath. And when you're ready, exhaling. Beautiful. And breathing in again, all the way up through the soles of your feet. Expanding the belly. And exhaling when you're ready. One more time, just breathing in, up through the soles of the feet, expanding the belly. Feeling your connection to the earth and the cosmos, and on the exhale, releasing anything you don't need right now. And if you want to, you can just take another moment, just kind of slough off anything that you'd like to just let the earth take as compost. And when you're ready, you can just come back into this space fully and completely. We welcome all of you who are listening and watching later. I'm always very appreciative of that. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So what I'm going to do right now is pull the cards first while we're in this space of relaxation, kind of just getting ready for the week. It is an extraordinary week, starting March 18th through the 25th. We have just one of the most powerful weeks that we've probably ever had, with the new moon, with the spring equinox, and with Pluto making its advent into its next sign. It's very exciting. So it's all happening. It's all happening. And there are just it was so funny yesterday in a session. I was surprised to see that I knew this earlier in the year, but it kind of popped up again because here we are in March. There are 2 Aries new moons this year. And so lots of fresh starts, lots of time to start over, lots of time to begin again. And that's exciting. I'm really excited about that. And the first one is coming up here very shortly. And for some of us, it's on the 19th. For some, it's on the 20th. Depends on where you are in the world. And there is, again, as we know, the advent of spring, the Aries point, the 0 point. We've talked about that before. It's a very powerful moment. And we're here to celebrate that. And we're also here to acknowledge that, and also Saturn moving into Pisces at 0 point. Again, lots to talk about there. And with Pluto moving into Aquarius, we have a lot of 0 point energy, which I think is a really good thing. It gives us an opportunity to enter into the space of new and beginning. And in order to do that, what do we need to let go of? It's just kind of always the thing, right? Yeah, 0 point actually is a thing. It's actually means that there is a strong energy at the 0 point. Depending on what we're looking at, if you were to have a planet at 0 degrees, it means that you came in to learn a lot about that sign ahead. If you come in with a planet at 29 degrees, you came in to bring your wisdom from the many lifetimes that you've had cultivating that energy of that particular sign. So there's probably a deeper answer to that, but that's my answer as of right now. All right, I'm going to pull an anchor card. Oh, and I'm pulling it from the Herbal Astrology Oracle. So by Adriana Ias. I don't know if that's how she pronounces her last name, but that's how I'm pronouncing her last name in this moment. So forgive me if I pronounced it wrong. It's a great deck. All right, so this will be our anchor card today. Interesting. It's the ayahuasca card. Now, I find that very fascinating. And those of you who know me are going to get a good laugh out of that. But, okay, let's see if I can get this to focus. That's a bummer. Wait. There we go. Okay. This card, and you can see this represents the goddess here, and and it fits actually really well. The rebirth is the word that's underneath the herb. And for those of you who don't know me very well and are wondering why I've mentioned that, there is obviously a very powerful goddess here. And for many of us, we choose to work with the different goddesses without using the plant medicine. So that's why I think for some people that might like, why is that funny? Because for some of us, it's the plant medicine, just the card is enough, or just being next to the plant is enough. We don't actually ingest it. So working with the goddesses, in terms of the energy and the energetic signature is plenty. So I do love that it's about rebirth, and it's Venus, which I think is perfect, and Jupiter and Neptune. So it's all of the planets that are very much about the blessings and the higher octaves of love and compassion, which actually fits really well with what I was thinking about Saturn and Pisces. So that's nice. And in the book, I'll just read briefly a little bit about what she says here. It is about rebirth, the mystery, great revelation, gifts from spirit, telepathy. And the original use of it with the indigenous people in South America was to cure illness, and it was used as a diagnostic tool for healing others. It's very interesting. The guidance that she says here is that you are mastering the power of awareness. And I think that actually fits really nicely with what we're talking about here. It says, remember, dear one, that to heal the world, you must heal yourself. You are the source of love. And I think this actually, David's here today. For those of you who don't know him, that's my partner, David Evon Garrett, and he's co-host today. We talk a lot about, how we can really tune into our own life force energy. And that is ironic that, a lot of people who use this plant medicine, that I tend to say, tune into your own energy without the plant medicine. That is one of my things that I share freely with my students and the people that I mentor, because I do feel that we have everything we need within us to be able to cultivate our life force. And I recognize also that everyone has a different path. So I'm, I want to be clear that I respect other people's paths at the same time. And having a rebirth, having that connection to our higher selves, to our inner self, to all of ourselves, that does take awareness, and it takes cultivation, and it takes practice. And so that is actually something David and I both teach and talk about every single day, probably, of our lives together. So so welcome to the goddess ayahuasca for bringing her energy of connection and divine compassion. Of there's a Pluto element in her as well. Obviously, that makes sense. And we are talking about Pluto today briefly. I'm not going to talk about it all the time, but I love that. So she is our anchor card today, and she is absolutely suggesting that we connect very deeply with ourselves. All right. Next card for today is going to be the Four of Pentacles. And again, let me see if I can get it into focus. Trying. The camera loves to focus on me, but I wanted to focus on it. All right. Well, you can get the gist of it anyway. She is holding a purse. Many of you who know the tarot know that, I'm trying to say it correctly. Isn't that great? Many of you who know the tarot know that the Four of Pentacles has a challenged meaning in traditional form. Once again, Chris Ann, who created this deck, has a very wonderful message. But before I share that, which I will share in the follow-up email, I would love for you to just look at this and really divine for yourself. What do you feel? What do you sense? What do you know when you see this card? What comes up for you? Is there a memory? Is there an inspiration? What's happening here with this card? So again, we're coming from the anchor of knowing thyself, right? Knowing yourself, connecting to your awareness, and then whatever it is you wish to see in this card is the message that you need right now. Okay. And of course, the reveal will be later. The reveal is later. I love that. Oh, Kathy, I love that too. You're a good, wise group this morning. Okay. Loving that. All right. Next card is an interesting one. Again, we're getting some interesting cards this morning. This is also, this is the Five of Swords. And let me see if I can get it to focus on that. There we go. Five of Swords. I'm just going to let the image hang out for a minute. It's a challenged card also. It's actually probably one of my least favorite cards, but it definitely has a powerful message. And any five in the tarot is going to suggest to us that we have patterns that began or have their roots in systemic family patterns. Okay, so any five has to do with family of origin. And very often some of the things that are, and you can see it kind of nagging and challenging for us. You can tell from the card. I'm not giving anything away. Anything that is challenging for us often has its roots in something much deeper. And so much of the way that we move through that is by using self-awareness. And then as Kathy, I really liked what Kathy said, holding her own counsel, protecting personal power. That may be something that is really important so as not to repeat some of the patterns. But to get to the deeper healing, let's pull the next card. Let's find out what the next one is. And the next one is strength. And I'll see if I can get it to come into focus. There we go. So you'll notice Lion and the Lamb. This particular deck has strength at the number 8. My favorite is when they put it at the number 11. So there's maybe the only thing I'm not comfortable with in this deck, but it's okay. It's all stretchy. So where is the healing coming from? It's coming from the heart. It's coming from strength. It's coming from vulnerability, power. And again, that may or may not be the meaning of this card for everyone. So just take a moment. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you notice? And how is it that this allows us to heal? And what is this? What is this? This knowing of self. If we start with the first card, the knowing of self, the healing of self, and we move into this card, and we move into this card, and then we move into this card. So now we have all the cards. So we have this goddess here, ayahuasca goddess, who says, know thyself. Get to know your inner power, get to know your higher self. Then we have the 4 of Pentacles asking us to hold something close and or release something, perhaps. Who knows? That's going to be up to each of you. And then we have the 5 of Swords asking us to consider what's nagging at us. What is a challenge? What pattern might we wish to release? And then we have the answer of how do I get to that? And it comes with strength. And I would say courage, probably, if we look at the heart, right? Courage. Okay. That's our read for this morning. Kind of a big read, kind of fits with everything. So what I want to propose here, I like this, Kathy. Get to know yourself, mute the ego. I like that. Connect with your heart, which is where the truth is. I like it. So again, you all get to decide what fits best for you. And thank you, though. I want to hear everything that you want to share. Putting it in the chat makes it easy for me. So, all right, I just want to do a little bit of Saturn in Pisces and then talk a little bit about, the rebirth, the reopenings. For me, Saturn in Pisces, I've been doing a lot of reading and just really, I have to agree. Jenna did her full moon circle last week and talked a little bit about Saturn in Pisces as it was moving in right around that time. And bringing our dreams into reality. How do we do that? Okay, so that is a theme that many astrologers are working with. And I would say also, how do we access greater compassion? And in what form, very Saturn, what form do we want to access that compassion? So those 2 questions, and they have lots of other questions underneath, like what are the dreams that I want to bring into form, or what dreams need more structure? Neptune is in Pisces right now, and Neptune in Pisces is bringing us lots of visions and dreams. And certainly at night, I've just had really intense dreams since Saturn went into Pisces. I don't know about everybody else, but I have pretty intense dreams anyway, but they're getting more intense. So there's the literal, right? The dreams at night, but there's also our dreams, our visions. What are we wanting to create in our lives? And that is definitely an important layer to this. The next layer, I feel like, is a reminder layer. Like, we're here to love, and that higher love of Pisces, that compassionate divine love, how can we access that more? What do I need in my life? What form, what information, what connection to myself, to the world around me, to my environment? What do I need in terms of form to connect more with a deeper compassion so that I can be part of that way of bringing that into the world. So I put that all in the first person because I don't want to assume everybody wants to do the same thing, but that's how I'm seeing Saturn in Pisces. And I have Saturn in Pisces, so I'm really taking this very seriously. My Saturn return is imminent in the next couple weeks. So, and it's going to be all year. So probably hear me talk about this all year. So again, how am I, and we look at the cards, how am I digging deeper? How am I deepening my awareness? How am I cultivating my awareness of myself? So a lot of you have, I mean, anyone listening here is already doing that. And so it's a matter of how do I enhance that? How do I refine that? How do I deepen? And with Pluto's entrance into Aquarius, I feel with that change, there is an opening, a portal, a way of, yes, we need to let go of things in order to, be in the energy of Pluto, and having the opportunity to live through this change and know that the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we had, it was in the 1700s, 1770. Don't quote me on this, but let's say 1774 to 1794, something around those dates. David's always good at getting our dates, so maybe he'll do that for us today. So Pluto in Aquarius, I mean, think about that time in history. I mean, it's profound. How far have we come? Saturn in Pisces, Pluto in Aquarius, it offers us some really powerful questions to ask ourselves. If the Industrial Revolution happened, I believe, somewhat during that time, I'm not positive, but I think it did. How has that helped us? How have we become more compassionate beings? How has this supported us in our path here, our evolutionary path on Earth? These are the deeper Saturn approved questions. And I think that offering, again, from the card reading, a level of self-awareness is the beginning to that. Now, the other piece of it is how are we compassionate, not just with ourselves, but how are we more compassionate with others? This, for those of you in relationship, that this takes some work. Those of you not in relationship, this takes some work. We're all in relationship with something. Anytime we're relating to any being, whether it's an animal, a human, a plant, we are in relationship in a way that is here to help us grow, help us learn, help us evolve, hopefully. That's the plan. Anyway, that's in my world. That's the plan. So I'll own it. That's my world. And I think having an opportunity now to look at the cosmos's support, and that allows us the deep, powerful opportunity to review a little bit of how we are. How are we with this? How am I? And really, we need to start with the personal, because, I have to do my own work. I have to constantly be aware of where I can deepen, where I can heal, where the wounds are. We just had that beautiful Jupiter Chiron. It's actually still slightly conjunct right now, yesterday. And that's a powerful moment. So if we just look at the clues that the universe is leaving us, little breadcrumbs, right? Little breadcrumbs. Like, I'm going to give you this healing energy with Jupiter and Chiron. And yeah, you might feel your stuff, but that's good, because we want to heal that. We want to move into more love, more compassion, more healing, more joy, right? The other planet on our first anchor card was Jupiter, which is all about joy. So, and generosity. So how can I be generous? How can I be generous with myself? How can I be generous with others? So as we enter the Aries energy, and we're not there yet, we still have the Pisces right now. So enjoy the Pisces. And we will have Saturn in Pisces for 2.5 years. So we have lots of Pisces ahead of us. But as we enter the Aries energy, how am I? Do some assessment. How am I doing? How is this life going? where is there opportunity for rebirth? Where is there opportunity for more knowledge that will help me heal at the deepest levels, which will then help me contribute in more ways on this planet? And again, these are my thoughts, my words. I own them completely. I thank you very much for listening. You may have other interpretations. And of course, in each individual's chart, which is really where I'm spending almost all of my time, we find the clues for each of you where that's happening. And for those of you who are already studying astrology, just look at a few things. Where is Pluto entering Aquarius in your chart? What house is that in? Where is Saturn entering Pisces in your chart? And then look at your natal Pluto. Look at your natal Saturn. Where do they show up? What are they trying to show you? Mine happen to be opposite each other. As a lot of people born in the 60s, not everyone, but there's a contingent who have Pluto and Uranus very close together in Virgo, opposite Saturn in Pisces, and Chiron. So, and there's some that just have it really, really, really close. And I've been talking to a lot of you of late. So there's lots of messages, and they're all, I think, when we really dive in and we look at the Jupiter Chiron conjunction yesterday and into today, the universe is saying this is all for your good. This is all for your good. Now, I'm not saying that suffering is good, and I'm not saying that the grief that many of us are feeling is good. I'm just saying the universe says, I'm here and I have your back. This is for your good, but this is for the good. In other words, you are being held in the process. So we never bypass the reality. That's my Saturn in Pisces, right? We never bypass the reality of the deep sensitivity and awareness that you all have. So anyway, those are my thoughts for the morning. And I am actually going to ask David to come along here. So let me, I'm going to spotlight, I guess I'll spotlight both of us, but I will spotlight David and then I will spotlight myself. Hi, good morning.
Hello everyone.
A couple weeks ago, we were talking about compassion and awareness and relationship. We were talking primarily about the animal-human relationship, and we actually received quite a number of emails and questions about human-to-human relationship. So I just thought, if you don't mind taking a few moments and just sharing with us a little bit more about what you have to say, maybe in response to some of these cards or in response to the astrology, and also answer some of the questions that we had around that last interview conversation that we had a couple weeks ago.
Yes, thank you, Denise. It's good to be back here with you all. And it's interesting with the entry of Saturn into into Pisces. We're bringing that kind of Saturnian quality of wanting to have a precise, clear perspective to a realm where that can be very challenging. That sort of Piscean realm of feeling and the waters of emotion. But really what we're engaging with here is the flow of life. So the Piscean realm is an opportunity to engage in an intimate experience of, call it what you will, cosmic flow, divine flow, or the deep inner soul realms of flow.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think the sort of negative propaganda about Saturn is that it's this harsh taskmaster,
it can
thrashing
be.
you.
Yeah.
Not a very pleasant experience, but
no, but it isn't really. Thank you for bringing that up. David always articulates things so well. I really appreciate it. Saturn, I've had to learn to love Saturn, and I'll just say it. Saturn in Pisces, probably anybody's Saturn. I'm sure you can speak to your Saturn in Aquarius and, how that, but the great teacher, yes. Do we have lessons to learn? Sure. Learning them every day. Thank you very much. But yeah, so anyway, go on. I just thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think the opportunity with Saturn entering Pisces, and again, this is a direct entry, unlike the typical scenario where the retrograde Saturn back and forth motion across that 0 point can create some ambiguity. Obviously, we had that back in March of 2020.
Yeah.
Right here we are, COVID, global pandemic. What's going on? What should we do? What should we not do? Confusing information.
Yeah.
So that the information realm had a lot of unclarity.
Right.
And very, directly contradictory information. Not that we've necessarily come to any clarity around that whole issue after.
There's that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But here we are now. Yeah, go ahead.
So let me just say something real quick so people understand what you're saying. So sometimes when it's like Pluto's going to be going over the 0 point back and forth all year, Saturn is making a just right into Pisces. And I believe you're correct. I was going to check it out real quick, but when Saturn was going into Capricorn, I'm just going to look to see when that was real quick. That was 2017. And then when it was going into Aquarius, like you were saying, there was a back and forth in 2020. Back and forth and back and forth. So
there was actually a single, it entered in March and then it went back in the summer, and then by December
and that's challenging, but it's also meant to deepen our awareness of something. And I was always saying back then, Saturn in Aquarius is going to help us figure things out, like what's the form that's going to help the people of the world. And we were the pandemic had just started really when Saturn went into its first entry into Aquarius. So anyway, we could talk about that, but we're not there anymore. We're in Saturn and Pisces now. So now let me just give it back to you. I'm interrupting.
Sure. Absolutely not.
Go on.
You're complimenting our conversation.
Well, this is how it is in our household, just so you all know. This is how
we have a lot of back and forth.
Yeah. We do a lot of, we do.
At varying volumes.
Yeah.
of intensity.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But yes, we do have not only a direct station here with Saturn entering Pisces, but also it's going to be coming back. Denise was mentioning the 0 point. It's not going to retrograde back into Aquarius, but it's going to come all the way back to half a degree of the 0 point.
Yeah.
So understanding that sort of initiation into a new realm, which is what the 0 point is about. I mean, there are arguments back and forth around the zodiac and whether the actual, star realms that are governed by these areas are still in effect. So we'll avoid the, esotericism of astrological controversy about the zodiac signs. But let's just accept the premise that we're entering new territory here.
Yes.
And it's a territory where there's big energy that isn't necessarily expressed in a way that we can clearly access. Right? So think about being out in the ocean and a mist comes and you've been navigating by the stars, but the stars are no longer visible. And so how do you find your way?
That's a beautiful analogy, by the way. Yeah.
And, Saturn is there. Well, we've got the compass and we've got these instruments and we've got radar and we've got, all these detection devices, but somehow they're stopped working.
Okay, so here's
they were working really well in that other place, that Aquarian, zone of ocean. But
they
now
were
we're
working
in the
well,
Piscean
right?
realm,
Or they were getting to it seemed like they were working well.
You know,
Can
or it's
I
the Bermuda
interrupt your?
Triangle and the compass is, you know,
Yeah.
spinning.
Okay. So I'm going to interrupt your analogy just for a moment because
Yeah,
you gave me the opening for my Saturn and Pisces to share something.
please.
David's absolutely right. It is like, you're sailing along, and I'm actually a terrible sailor, but I have sailed. I'm sailing along, the mist comes in. That could send someone into a panic if their instruments are in the Bermuda Triangle and there's nothing to go on. But this
Or
is
if you're in the ocean where there are icebergs
right. Well, yeah,
or
that too.
other things
But
that you
here's
can
the
run into.
thing. Here's the thing about Saturn and Pisces. Maybe this also includes my Jupiter and Taurus and my Sagittarius moon. I'm not sure. It might be the combo thing. But I immediately go to, well, this is no different than the mists of Avalon. I just ask the mists to part, and they do. And that I think also brings in some of the Pluto energy as well. It's like, where's the magic here? How am I going to navigate this time? So Saturn is actually asking us to ask the questions. How am I going to do this? At least that's my take on it. So my Saturn in Pisces is like, yeah, I get it. You're absolutely right. And then how do I ask for those missed apart, instrument free? What do I need to do? What is the magic I need to cultivate within myself that's going to allow that? Because the mist didn't part every time. When you wanted to get to Avalon, the mist only, I know, 872 pages. I know. The mist, it's a good book though. The mist only part when you are exactly what I was. She and I, we have the same birthday. Virginia and I have the same birthday, just so you all know, because you have to be in tune. That was exactly the words I was going to use. Thank you, Virginia. So yes. And what does that mean?
So yes, life, if we're really paying attention, right? That's the Saturnian element, is a magical, mystical realm. Not
Right.
just when, we're in the Pisces zone of experience,
Right.
but in truth, if we have a mystic's eye, a magical perspective about our human experience, this journey, this trip, if we want to, use the psychedelic imagery from the ayahuasca card.
Yeah.
We are in a mystical, magical
All the time.
experience in this human journey of life. And we, at times, have a tendency to we fly on instruments, right? We're in the cockpit and we just kind of, sit back and let the machine drive itself. But I think the challenge and the gift and the opportunity of this time is we don't get to fly on autopilot. It's not necessarily that it's a dangerous place. It's just that there's a lot available if we're willing to pay attention. And remember, the ruler of Pisces is Jupiter.
Originally, just to not
Right, in
confuse
the
people.
classical
Yes.
astrology. So it's not just, there's mist on the windshield and I just need to turn on the wipers and clear the windshield. This is dense, thick journey of experience. And yes, you can fly on instruments and pass on through and maybe encounter some turbulence along the way and make it to the other side, and that's fine if that's how you want to live life. But if you are willing to engage with, to again draw upon the cards, with courage,
Yes.
and with some willingness to put some energy into making the effort to see clearly, to feel, to sense, to experience your life with more attention and appreciation to its richness, right? You can, well, maybe another Piscean metaphor. You've got a glass of wine in front of you. You can do the typical American thing and, down it in one glug, or you can taste it. Experience its richness, note the flavor, the bouquet, really allowing the full depth of experience to arise, which takes some patience,
Yeah.
You're not going to necessarily get quick answers in this Piscean realm. But if you're willing to remain present, so really the opportunity of Saturn in Pisces is engaged presence.
Yeah. I like that. That's a
And
great
a,
phrase.
and a willingness to, if you want to say this, suffer, but
I'm not into suffering.
suffer the lack of clarity.
How about weather? How about weather, the lack of
weather,
clarity?
okay, so weather's a good metaphor, but I think also it's just simply the lack of clarity right now is just simply where you're at.
Yeah.
It's like any learning process, like any growth process,
Yeah.
things have their natural unfoldment.
Yes.
You can't simply, shout at the universe to demand that it, give you the answers to all of your questions immediately. I mean, you can do so, and that's a kind of comical scene, but, it's an opportunity now to walk the path with greater awareness and be sort of entrust yourself that what is necessary will come to you, that life will bring you the answers. It's not like,
And
oh, well, life will bring me the answers, so I don't really have to pay attention, and then, I'll just watch
yes,
some more
it's not
TV or
quite
something.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to trust for a moment. And that's actually you bring up a really good point. We think about Jupiter. Jupiter is again, as you said, an original ruler of Pisces. Is that what you just said? You just said that.
Yes, a classical ruler and the great
Classical ruler.
benefic.
Yeah. So Jupiter also represents trust, faith, inspiration, higher power,
Yes.
higher energy. So the gift is in there, and that's not always easy. So I think, and don't you have Jupiter in Pisces?
I do.
Yeah, I'm not.
And I
See,
have Saturn in Aquarius.
yeah, so Jupiter in Pisces, you're kind of speaking to this. How do I surrender into this? How do I believe and have faith and trust? And it's not passive. And I think that sometimes people talk about Pisces as if it's passive, and it is anything but passive. And I said this last week, I think, about the inner core of the Pisces is strong. I mean, there's power there.
Yes.
And I'm always I'm a little confused by why people might consider Pisces a very passive energy, when in fact it is all the energies kind of swirling together, ready to create something that's extraordinary and powerful.
So yes, there's this experience of this, swirling, like chaos.
Yeah, like creative chaos, like how everything was made.
But Saturn is the opportunity to identify the pattern in the chaos.
Yes,
That's
that's
actually
good.
kind of,
Ooh, that's good. I like that.
yeah.
Saturn's the
And,
opportunity to identify the pattern in the chaos. I love it. That's really good.
it's kind of interesting that there was a, psychedelic card
Oh yeah, I know.
at the opening of
Fascinating.
our
But I mean,
tarot
here's the
journey.
thing. This is
But
life for us is kind of like that. All, we live in this
we're
wildness.
on a psychedelic trip.
Yeah, without the drugs,
If anything, in the highest sense of the use of plant medicine and substances of various kinds, in the highest use of those substances as a kind of spiritual tool, they're teachers.
Yes.
And what they're
they are
teaching you is that reality is something that exists beyond the limitations of your everyday perception.
Yeah.
This is not an advocacy of psychedelics or any other substance, but once you have the awareness that reality exists beyond your limited perceptions, the thing is not to just keep taking more drugs, but actually live in a universe where you move and flow with the awareness of a reality that exists beyond the limits of your perception. So that's the opportunity and the gift. And so Saturn's like, oh, you didn't get that one before? Well, here, let me take you on a little tour of the trip.
Right, right. And Virginia
Uh,
asks, Virginia asked a really good question. Is it reality? Is it applied possibility? Is it there's so many possibilities. It's like that Star Trek. Remember that, I think it was Next Gen, where there's like thousands of wharfs in the Enterprise, or maybe he wasn't in the Enterprise, I can't remember, but he's in the Starship, and there's all these different realities, they've all splintered.
yes. We definitely, let's say, the whole multiverse metaphor actually really
Yeah.
proliferated during that
Yes,
passage of Saturn through Aquarius, right? We've
it
got all these
did. And
Marvel
so now,
comics
yeah,
universes.
right, right.
Everybody's riffing on the multiverse.
Well, but so Saturn actually, I feel like, at least for me, Saturn and Pisces, it's like helping me find the path that's my path, that's best path for me, so that I'm not scattered. You were just talking about like
Hmm.
being scattered isn't necessarily helpful. Being open to possibility is helpful.
Well, and yes, okay, so obviously being splintered in
Mhm.
your experience of reality,
Mhm.
there's some
Not so good.
deep suffering that can happen
Yes,
there.
that is true.
So, one of the challenges and gifts of Saturn in Pisces is that you're moving through a reality and there are things coming from beyond your perception and coming
Hmm.
into your perception, right? But
Yeah.
it's not to create a sense of derealization
Hmm.
or a, fragmentation of the self.
Hmm.
And you mentioned it earlier, Denise, so there's this opportunity to connect more deeply with your interior
Hmm.
orientation, having
Exactly.
your sense of direction not come from the
Yes.
instruments,
No.
not come from necessarily being able to see the stars, because you can't necessarily see the stars right now.
Right.
Things are not entirely clear for
Hmm.
the external perception,
Hmm.
but there's an
But
opportunity to connect with the internal
internal,
perception in a way
yes.
where that internal compass, internal guidance,
Hmm.
internal awareness
Hmm.
can be a tool for navigation
Yes.
and
That is
also
so
lead
true.
into a deeper and richer experience, not only of your inner world, but
Yes.
the outer world.
Yes.
You know, one might say, if one were into such things, that a good drug trip will do that for you. Sometimes even a good illness will do that for you.
Hmm.
You get really sick and
Hmm.
feel like
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
And then when you come back to life, right, when you
Hmm.
come back to homeostasis or health or however we want to define this, life is a little, wow, you really appreciate, you
That's
know, uh,
true. Or
the
an
taste of a
injury.
glass of
Same,
water
same.
or, a
Yeah,
sunny day or whatever it
it's
might be.
true. And we've
And
all experienced that.
yeah, so there's healing opportunity.
Yes.
And, right, we can have a rich conversation about what is healing. Healing in its Indo-European linguistic roots
Hmm.
comes from the notion of making whole.
Right.
So it doesn't mean I am never sick, I don't die, I live forever,
Hmm.
right? But whatever
Hmm.
my experience is, it
Hmm.
is an experience of wholeness. And
Exactly.
sometimes there is a fragmentation, a splintering that needs to happen in order for things to organize themselves into a greater coherence, a
Yes.
deeper, richer wholeness.
Hmm.
These are some of the gifts
Hmm.
in the Pandora's box of
Hmm.
Saturn and Pisces.
Yes.
Saturn's curious, it's going to open the lid, see what's in there. But is what's inside the box any different from what's outside the box? We're going to have to look inside and find out.
Exactly. That is
Or
exactly
you
right.
can zone out, take a drink, smoke, do some drugs, watch television, distract yourself in any number of ways. That's always a possibility that's available for people. But I think the people who are drawn to your work are seeking something
Yeah.
a
And also
little
too,
more alive than that.
I would say also with Saturn and Pisces, there's actually probably less of a call toward that. Neptune in Pisces is having its own. I mean, there's a richness in going deep in meditation. There's a richness in we were just talking about this the other night, that there's so much beauty when we stop and just you just look at a piece of grass on the ground. Like the level of sensitivity of Pisces is so vast that you can just take it in, and Saturn's going to help us find the way to do that. I feel like many ways, I'm sure, but to remind us that we can in fact have that richness and that experience. And this phrase, being present, sometimes phrases get overused.
Yes.
Like, what does that mean to be present? What does that mean? And so each of us needs to define that for ourselves. But for me, being present is stopping, listening, and opening. And this green that's in front of me, how do I feel? What do I notice? What do I hear?
Yes.
Colors might have sounds. It may sound like, there's a substance involved, but there isn't one. It's just how I'm designed. And it's how most of us who are sensitive are designed, honestly, to be able to do this. And that's the beauty of this earth, right? So anyway, there's a million places we could go with this conversation, but I do want to just make sure we leave time for you to answer a very direct question from some of the emails we've received. Do you offer human to human relationship sessions with the work that you do? Or do you offer individual sessions not related to relationship? So yes, those were the two questions.
These questions are coming up. We did the animal human relationship alchemy.
Yeah, which is amazing, right?
And that's another term that's very much appropriate for this Saturn in Pisces passage, is an alchemical journey.
Right.
So the alchemist, with precision of attention, would navigate a transformational journey. So that journey, it can be entirely an interior journey of knowing myself in deeper and richer ways, becoming a connoisseur of your own lived experience, right? Yeah. It's not just something that's happening to you that you can kind of remember and, recount the history or something, but you're actually vividly alive in the moment-to-moment unfoldment of your experience. So there are tools for that. Obviously, astrology can be a tool to help, navigate and have a deeper appreciation and a richer experience of your life. And, certainly Western astrology is based in Greco-Roman primarily, and now with the expansion of astrology as a kind of global phenomenon, there are archetypes coming from cultures all over the planet: East Asia, Africa, the Middle East, North and South poles, literally. So yes, one can learn more about one's inner life. But then in the relational realm, the interpersonal, right? So there's the intrapersonal and then the interpersonal realm of relationship. Relationship first with oneself and relationship with the other. That other can be a human or non-human other, right?
Absolutely.
We have very, very intimate and profound relationships with animals. They influence us in remarkable ways.
Definitely.
And then also, of course, in the interpersonal realm, there's not just one's beloved or, close, intimate fellows, but there's also children, family members, etc. So there are ways to map this, obviously, with Western astrology. And then the approach that I use is based in East Asian, primarily Chinese, understanding of both natal and prenatal influences. So yes, I don't just work with human and animal relationships.
Right, which is
human
great.
Relationships are, absolutely. Relationships are our deepest challenge at times and also greatest teachers. but it's always important to approach relationships from an awareness and an understanding of self. If we're not attuned to the flow of life as we experience it within ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult to grasp what's unfolding
Mm-hmm.
in the flow of life as it's channeling through two or more
Yes.
people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a parent and wanting to have a greater understanding and deeper honoring of your children, and particularly where there are maybe challenges in the relationship, it's a very, very useful tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course, navigating adult interpersonal relationships, you and I have to rely on our tools very often.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of difficulties arise when we forget what we know, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And often in our, sometimes more challenging moments, we come back to
Mm-hmm.
an awareness of self that
Yes.
allows for greater compassion, deeper intimacy,
Yes.
strengthening of the connection
Yes.
between us. So,
Absolutely.
absolutely, yes. I do have support available for people who are seeking a greater understanding, either again, of their relationship, deeper relationship with self,
Mm-hmm.
or a stronger connection with others, family
Okay.
members, or intimates.
Yeah, and I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but would you be willing to extend that same offer maybe through the through the
Through the
equinox?
equinox, absolutely, yes. I think a lot of people listen to that initial
Mm-hmm.
animal-human relationship alchemy and
Mm-hmm.
thought that perhaps that was the only way in which that work applies. And also there was
Mm-hmm.
kind of a short window there. So absolutely, I'd like to open that back up, and we
Okay.
can include in the email an information link. Um,
Okay.
and I know a lot of people have personal questions. They wonder
Mm-hmm.
if it really can apply to their circumstance or their
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
relationship.
Yes. Yes.
So what I'd like to do, Denise, is have available for folks, to you all, present here and also listening to the recording, a 20-minute free consultation just to have a talk about what your needs are, what you're seeking to have more awareness of in terms of relationship. So we'll include that link, and if people want a session, I'll make that special offer
Okay.
available. But if you just have some questions and would
Mm-hmm.
like to understand better whether or not there's some support available, I'm happy to make
That's
that
awesome.
available to everyone.
Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
so
I
thank you.
appreciate. Yeah,
And
and
again,
just
thank you, Denise. It's always a pleasure. Obviously, we get to have these kind of
right.
lively conversations
It's true.
in our private space, but obviously Saturn and Pisces has invited us to have it in a more public domain. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, and thank you, because I do think, what I kept coming back around to over and over and over again, just through myself, was, this idea of compassion and starting
Yes.
with compassion for self.
Mhm.
And again, I'm weaving together the Saturn in Pisces with the Aries point, with the new moon in Aries, with, I'm weaving together all of these pieces to get to that interpretation. But every time I tune in, it's like where we need to start is within our own matrix, within our own energy system, with understanding that there are times when we have to find that deeper message of compassion for this being, who this soul, this body that incarnated onto this earth at this time. I mean, think about it. I want everyone here to just like put your hand, well, you don't have to, but invite you to put your hand on your heart and
Absolutely.
just say, thank you for coming. This has been really weird. Like, what did you think that the life was going to unfold this way? And in many ways it's beautiful and amazing, but in other ways it has just been beyond what we could have ever imagined. So thank yourself for being here. And
Yes, and
and
really take a moment to just sense and feel with your hand your own
mm,
heartbeat,
yeah.
your own aliveness.
Mm, mm,
And in a sense, the awareness that to use that 0 point analogy, this is like ground zero. This is
Yeah.
the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You are the center of the universe. And obviously that's a paradox because there's more than one person, you
Yeah.
know, speaking and listening and reflecting and sensing and feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a narcissistic notion that, you know, you're the center of the universe. But
Yeah.
in essence, it's an honoring of the reality that
Mm-hmm.
as the lived perceiver, as
Mm-hmm.
a living, breathing, conscious human being,
Mm-hmm.
reality is rooted, anchored in this present moment, in this now, with
Mm-hmm.
your next breath, your
Yeah.
present moment of awareness. And if
Definitely.
you need any other meditation, you know, that could just be your meditation.
I know, right?
And in
That's
essence,
right.
all meditations
Yeah.
root down into that
Thank
presence
you.
and
Thank you for
being.
that. So David, I don't know if you can see the chat, but I wanted to read what Kathy said before she had to drop off. Thank you, Mahalo, David and Denise, for your generosity and compassion for bringing all these magical and deeply insightful, intuitive messages forward. I'm grateful for the very big spiritual sandwich you delivered today. I will enjoy chewing on it in gentle Hawaii, visiting my little sis, sending aloha to both and all who are gathered here today. And thank you. She can't hear us, but thank you, Kathy. And
Mahalo nui
then,
loa.
yes, yes. And what I want to say as we move through the week is to be aware. You know, how can I cultivate more awareness? That's the question. How can I cultivate more awareness? What tools am I using to help these mists part or open? How am
Or
I?
perhaps it's about enjoying the
Oh,
journey
yeah, he says,
through the
Mr.
mist.
Jupiter and Pisces. That's a good point. Enjoying the mist.
Yeah.
The Taurus says, maybe not. But of course, I agree with you. There is
Yes.
being present. And again, as I said, what does that mean for each of us? So I like to propose the questions. The questions really ask us to go a little bit deeper. And I do appreciate that about your work as well. When David delivers a session, there's a lot of information, as you can probably imagine. There's a lot of information, but there's embodiment practices that go along with each session.
Yes.
The medical Qigong is definitely woven into the sessions, as well as questions, inquiry, deep inquiry. So
And
just,
understanding the unique individual energy
right,
matrix. Or if
exactly.
it's a relationship, how does your energy matrix interact with the other person's? What are the
Exactly.
dynamics of that
Mhm.
engagement?
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that because people know you for your amazing ability to give us profound information, and just kind of rounding out David, you are equally as devoted to embodying, literally, like, how is the body doing with this
Yes.
experience on this planet, um very powerfully. So thank you for that. And to everyone, be safe out there. All of our dear friends in the Bay Area and California. We're kind of centered here on the West Coast, but I know that there's a lot going on all over the place. So please, please be well. And thank you all. And thank you, David, for coming on and being with me in this conversation today. All right, everyone.
Such a pleasure.
Mwah! We'll see you soon, probably next week.
Aloha.
Bye.